Welcome to Into the Finks. This one's pretty impromptu. I haven't had the time to do full videos yet, but just thinking about the future of the industry and also thinking about a bit of the past in the industry. I think this is a great place to start for me. Uh, while the first peated whiskey I ever had was Kalila, the first, I would say, real amazing whiskey experience I ever had was a bottle of Ardbeg from 1990. And anyone who knows anything about the Scotch whiskey industry and the broader whiskey industry knows that that's when they kind of temporarily reopened. And I believe that at some point in 97 or 98, they fully reopened. Um, Now, that whiskey was $85 in 2010, 2011. And I would say that it was one of the most interesting whiskeys I've had. It was a creamy vanilla peated whiskey, but it was in three batches. And the one I had was the last batch at maybe, I don't know, I think bottled in 2008. So it was 18 years old at the time. Unfortunately, Ardbeg has kind of gone the way of commercialization. A lot of the committee releases are non-age statements. While the 10 is still good, it's not quite where it used to be. And the reason I bring all this up is a few trends to keep in mind long term in the Scotch whiskey industry and the industry in general. The first one is that the industry, even though it's about 200 years old, a lot of distilleries go back to, I think, like the 1820s, 1830s. There's a lot of boom of bust to the point where distilleries close, they mothball, Ardbeg being one of them. If you look at Springbank, Longrow, the Longrow line, they made it in 73, 74, and not again until 1987 because they just didn't produce new make for that long. Now, the other one I want to highlight is Ardbeg, right? So they were closed, and those earlier whiskeys were really good. Not that they make bad whiskey, but they could make better whiskey. When demand is up, quality tends to go down. And it's kind of sad. I think we're really at that apex right now. Um, People can get away with it. There's no age statements. There's bad casks. There's cask finishes to cover up bad, especially bad ex bourbon maturation. And it can be very difficult for people to be able to afford and find good whiskey without paying a ton of money. Prices are not going to go down. They're not. Now, when I say prices, I mean maybe retail prices, but also if you think about the fact that an $85 bottle 12 years ago goes for about $400 to $500 at auction right now, um, it's definitely not a bad idea to, and this is kind of one of the things I want to talk about, is not to dog on, but maybe to give some advice as to how I managed to get good whiskey for not spending a ton of money. Now, I've had this bottle for quite a while. I've bought two or three hundred cents. I've had this bottle. I don't tend to finish a lot of things. If I do tastings and someone really likes something, I'll send them with about a half bottle sometimes, just as like a parting gift. But the prices aren't going down. It's been, even in the last 2 years, it has been harder and harder to find Springbank. I believe that today people were looking forward to the 2022 local barley release. I believe it's already sold out at the distillery whiskey shop. Now, I want to give some advice on how to get bang for your buck. Um, Number one, I would say that you should not get tangled up with just the distillery name. What I mean by that is that the distillery becomes popular, the prices will go up really dramatically very quickly. Now, this isn't a problem with the fact that there's, I believe, right now about 160 some odd Scottish distilleries. There's also single malt made in countries all over the world: India, Taiwan, the United States. Westland is a very good example. I have probably 10 bottles of Westland in my collection, and their regular bottlings are okay. Their flagship, I should not the flagship, the distillery exclusive or occasional single barrel picks are excellent. Now, this is where we get into you are going to have to go international. A lot, and I mean a lot, of really good Scotch is not imported to the US. There are shops in the EU, preferably Britain, that will hold whiskey for you. So the first bottle's expensive for shipping, anywhere from probably 30 to 60 British pounds, and I believe it's about 1.3 pounds per dollar. But each additional bottle is about 10 pounds, sometimes less. And if they hold it for you, you can order 6, 8, 10, 12 plus bottles, and you can just have a large shipment come in at the same time. They oftentimes will have new whiskeys every day. And in some shops, they sell out very quickly. So you do need to check very often. Um, Another thing that I would recommend is cross reference your whiskeys on Whiskey Base. One of the best features on Whiskey Base is the aggregate score, obviously, is important, but also pay attention to the color purple for members. They have a color coded system. And basically, anybody that's purple or an admin, I personally have had good luck giving those opinions extra weight. If it's an aggregate score of 88.5, but the lowest connoisseur rating is an 88, and there's some like lower ones and outliers from just basic members, you know that it's going to be a better whiskey. Because someone that has quantifiable experience, you can see like what they review, how they review it. Now, this does take, it takes work, it takes homework, but you're going to get a better bang for your buck. Also, don't shy away from independent bottlers. Independent bottlers are absolutely fantastic. They are just, they bottle, well, I should say, good independent bottlers. Larger ones, I've had good luck with Signatory. Gordon and MacPhail, for me, can be a little hit or miss because they're so big. Believe that they're the biggest. Adelphi's really good. Thompson Brothers is really good. You can get, 28-year-old whiskey for $200 a bottle sometimes. Now, if you go to the store and go look at what a 28-year-old Scotch costs, it's going to be a lot more than that, and it's going to be a lower ABV. There's a lot of the times they're cask strength. At a minimum, they're 46%. Aside from some of the Gordon MacPhail bottles, frankly, guys, I don't know why you're still doing 43%. They're not chill filtered. There's no color added. There's also, you should kind of get an idea of what barrel types you like. So, for example, I kind of break things, there's peated whiskeys, there's ex-bourbon, there's ex-sherry, and then as an asterisk to sherry, you get into some of the fortified dessert wines. Now, you should really learn how to pick the styles that you like and ascertain which distilleries you like, but multiple. Wide net is better. If you're just looking for the next Springbank, if you're just looking for Macallan, if you're just looking for these big name brands like everybody else, Ardbeg as well, you're going to pay through the nose and you're going to be disappointed. There are a lot of really good distilleries out there that their older whiskeys, their quality whiskeys, their cask strengths, they don't command the same price because they don't have the same name. There's too many distilleries for the public to know all of them. I would also say that some distilleries that are really known for blend filler because they're owned by companies like from Diageo. Those whiskeys, ex-bourbon whiskeys that are over 20 years old. I have several bottles of a Signatory 1997 Glentuckers. I absolutely love that whiskey, and I have never really been an ex-bourbon guy. Uh, but that's the whiskey that really changed my mind. Now, also understand that really old whiskeys are really expensive and they don't necessarily give you everything you're looking for. Really old being over 30 years. I have a Ben Rummick that is a 45-year-old whiskey and it's delicious and it's well done, but there's a lot of varnish, furniture polish, dusty old books, and it's very cask driven. I wouldn't consider old whiskeys like that to be balanced. And I don't know if you're necessarily going to get everything that you think you're going to out of a mere age statement. A whiskey that is craft presented, that is done well with active casks, is going to give you a very good drinking experience for a fraction of the cost. I enjoy everything from 7 year old whiskeys all the way up to the 45-year-old, and it's not necessarily better. So I hope this helps someone out there. I really think that it's probably a good idea, given how much inflation is going up, to have a back stock of whiskeys that you're going to enjoy. If they're with batch to batch variation being what it is. I got burned on Glen Scotia 15. I bought a half case. I went through it. Went to buy more. The new batch, not good. Doesn't have the balance. It's all, you can tell that there was maybe some finishing with heavily recharred barrels, and it kind of overcoats the other flavors, and it's not as complex and it's not as interesting. It's still good. I mean, it's perfectly serviceable, but it just doesn't have the personality, the complexity, and the still signature that it did before. So hopefully everyone gets something out of this, and I start making more videos.